Stephen McCole, how are you, sir?
I'm fine, thank you very much.
Now, this is kind of a funny start to our interview because Ross Owen, he can't be here today because his internet has stopped working entirely at his place, and there's hordes of people right now trying to get it up and running again. But I know he's listening over to his sisters right now. So,
well, I hope you do him proud. It's a sad thing that he's not here to join in, I have to say, but.
Yeah, well, I think it's. I found it amusing that after we did all of the Band of Brothers interviews, he didn't realize that you and he were friends on Facebook, and that you were Frederick Heyliger, Moose Heyliger, in Band of Brothers until a year after we were done.
Yeah, because I've listened to a couple of the interviews, and I'd been keeping up regularly with all the posts about the parachute jump and all this other stuff, and I was thinking, what an arse not asking me to do this, you know? How dare he? I thought he was just rubbing it in my face that he was getting all these other guys who weren't his Facebook friends
to
do interviews. And then, you know, all of a sudden I realised that it was just a clerical error and, you know, a misunderstanding, and I'm happy to do one for you.
Well, and I'm excited to have the Band of Brothers people back on listening to us, because we did 32 of those interviews over 18 months, and my God, every Wednesday it was just a new. We used the exact same questions because they seemed to be what everybody wanted to hear, and then the rest of the guys would just go off on these stories, and of course we ask a lot of open-ended questions so we can hear the stories. But I'm glad that you're listening to a few of them. Did it bring back a lot of memories?
Yeah, it did, but it's nice just to hear the guys on just chatting about it, you know, and everyone had a very unique experience on that job, you know. I think the guys who were on it for a really long time have a real love for that job, and as they should do, you know. I think it changed a lot of them, you know, for the better. I think they had a really, you know, great experience on it. Those of us who dipped in for maybe an episode had a very different experience of it. While it was an amazing job, you're kind of dropped into this minefield of the army stuff, you know. This acting like your character, acting your rank, was just a complete mind fuck for me, to be honest. It was just crazy, you know, and we didn't know what to expect at all. So there was a few of us, I think, that had that kind of experience.
Now, that you playing Moose Heyliger, you didn't have to go through the whole boot camp process and Dale Dye yelling at you constantly. And
well, I didn't say I didn't have Dale Dye yelling at me, but not in the boot camp. No, I didn't do that. My first day on set was about a week and a half, 2 weeks before I started. And I was in London, and so I went over to set just to kind of meet the voice coach and go over my accent and make sure that was okay. And I was invited down to set, down in this field where all the guys were all dressed up and firing massive machine guns, and there was tanks coming over the brow of a hill, and that was my very first kind of view of what was going on, and I was so taken aback by it.
Did you stand on top of the hill and just grin like maniacally, going, "Oh my God, look at this, tanks and machine guns"? I
did at first, yeah. At first, the young guy who took me down there, one of the runners, was a lovely guy who had said, "You want to come down to set and have a look since you're here?" And I said, "Great." And he said, "Look, it's really muddy, so why don't we just give you a little bit of costume to put on, because it's just getting muddy anyway, and keep your clothes okay." And I was like, that's brilliant. So they just gave me, like, you know, a German shirt and American trousers and these boots, and I didn't wear them the way that they were supposed to be worn. I just wore them so that I didn't get muddy. And I was standing there, I was standing in awe of all this that was going on, you know. I was like, this is amazing, and all these guys just looked like soldiers. They looked miserable. They were lying in the mud. They were, you know, and I just thought, this is going to be great. It's going to be like being a kid again. And then I heard this voice shouting, "Hey, is that the new guy?" And I was like, and I'm looking about for the new guy, wondering who it is. And the runner who's with me goes, "That's you he's talking about." And I said, "Well, who's shouting? That's a mighty big voice." And he pointed over to this Marine, Farnsworth, Sergeant Farnsworth.
Oh, yes.
You've heard of Farnsworth?
We talked with Freddie Joe.
Oh, have you? Right. Oh, God, I hope he's not listening. I'm going to tell this story. So I look over, and he's not small, but he's not as tall as me, you know, and I thought, wow, this is a really imposing, you know, guy, this big voice. And then he shouts, "Bring that piece of shit over here." I was like, excuse me? I've not even started on this job yet. I'm not getting paid. I'm here of my own volition. And I walk over, and he just starts yelling in my face about the way that I'm dressed, and he won't let me get a word in to explain that I'm there off my own back just to meet the voice coach, and I was just invited down to set, and I haven't really started the job yet, and he was just going at me, and I have this thing when people try and get kind of in my face, I start to smile, you know. I find it quite funny, and so you can imagine that this riled Farnsworth up even more.
Oh yeah.
Sergeant Farnsworth, I should give him his full title. And he just went off on one, and I had my hands in my pockets, you know, and he was like, "Take your effing hands out of your pockets and drop and give me 20. And and I just burst out laughing and told him to go fuck himself. and that was it. He was shouting, "Right, that's it, you're off the job. Get this piece of shit out of here. He's off the job." And I'm like, I haven't even started yet. This is crazy. So it's all kicked off between me and him, and he's shouting at me, and I'm putting my hands back in my pockets just to annoy him. And so we're having this really dodgy footing, and I'm looking around going, is that it? Am I off, Band of Brothers? Have I just been sacked before I started? And because I didn't do the boot camp, so I had no idea how you're supposed to act with these guys. I have had no experience with soldiers before. And I'm standing around going, what the fuck? What just happened? And Dale Dye walks up to me, this 6 foot odds, grey haired, and you recognise him from the movies that he's done, and you're like, wow, that's Dale Dye. And he's wearing a wetsuit. And he walks up to me in this wetsuit, and he says, "Are you Heyliger?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "It's yes, sir." And I said, "Yes, sir." And he said, "Follow me." And he walked me over the hill into a field out of view of everyone, and scared the living shit out of me by just explaining to me that he was in charge of that production. Forget about your Spielbergs, forget about your Hanks. The army guys run this show, and you toe the line or you're out. And I was like, okay, that's fine, but I haven't done the boot camp or anything. He went, okay, I know there's a few of you guys who just, this is a little bit scary for, but you're just going to have to man up. And I was like, okay. And he says, and stop speaking to me in that horrible accent. You're an American speaking an American accent. Nothing like pressure. You know, I had only just met the voice coach that day, so I had to start in a field with this terrifying, massive guy in a wetsuit speaking an American accent. And, you know, he just kind of explained it to me very nicely that, you know, and then he told me something that was really nice. He asked, he said, "What's your rank?" And I said, I'm First Lieutenant Moose Heyliger. And he says, "Well, you have to act your rank with everyone. So if you outrank Farnsworth. So if he tells you to do push-ups again, you tell him to do double." And I just thought that just gave me so much power for the rest of the... I never used it, but I just knew that he couldn't talk to me like that again.
Right.
As long as I started to act my rank.
Oh, that's awesome.
But it was a very strange experience. It's very strange trying to kind of act your rank with a bunch of guys who've been together for months, and kind of like the character, they're looking at me like, "You're a dick, and we're not going to do anything that you say." So they were all staying in character that way, and I was just like feeling like shit the whole time, trying to not control these guys, but just get some camaraderie going with them. Because that was the character, you know. Absolutely.
Now, how did you? What was your audition process like? We heard a lot about everyone else's meetings with, especially the boot camp guys. They'd sit and when they would go to the audition process with Hanks, and he's in there with all of his giant beardy goodness because he was in the middle of filming Castaway when this was going on, and
wow.
Dropping weight and losing and growing that massive beard. Did you? Have a similar audition process, or they just pick you out of a lineup and go, "Yeah, he'll do"?
Yeah, well, that would be amazing if all you had to do was line up and get picked out. I was in America. I was in LA for a couple of months. I decided to go there and try and do some meetings, that thing that you do that's, really ill-advised. But I did that, and I had a lot of fun, had a lot of meetings, and I got to meet the folk at HBO who were big fans of Rushmore, and they were like, "We'll get you in for stuff." And while I was in America, you pick up the accent. You're doing it all the time with your friends who are American, and so my accent was like perfect when I was over there. And so I got a first audition in America for Band of Brothers, and then didn't hear anything about it. And I was back home maybe about a week when I got a call to go down to London, and I met some of the producers and auditioned again. And that the next thing I knew, I never met Tom Hanks or Steven Spielberg or anyone like that, but the next thing I heard, I got the job. So the very first time I ever met Tom Hanks was on set, and that was really kind of weird. that was very strange.
What do you mean kind of weird? Just because it was Tom Hanks, or was he?
Because it's Tom Hanks. It's the guy from Big. It's the guy from every movie that I watched. The growing up. I was a huge fan. I'm a huge fan. Didn't stop being a fan because I worked with him. I am actually a really huge fan of his work.
Were you around when Jimmy Matteo got in that bar fight?
No.
Okay. You probably didn't even know that happened.
I didn't know that happened.
Oh, well, it was fun. I'll send you the Jimmy Matteo interviews, because he had to actually come back on for a second interview after everybody started telling stories about that night.
See, I missed it in a lot of that because as I said, I was dipping in and out. So, having a lot of fun doing the scenes and stuff. But as far as being a part of the unit, the group, I was kind of watching that from a distance. It was fascinating to see how the guys were all bonding, and I totally understood the part that I was playing, and that I didn't need to get involved in all that, But it was fascinating to see how tight they all were, and it's testament to how great the program was. That these guys actually really got to know each other and would do anything for one another.
Yeah, absolutely. No, It blew me away after we did so many of these interviews and talking with these guys, and how that bond was formed, that they, to this day, they still have that big barbecue over at Michael Kudlich's place once a year. And I've seen pictures from the first one all the way up until this one, and you see people come and go, girlfriends come and go, wives get pregnant and have children, and now their kids are, in 5th grade, that weren't there when this thing even came out. And it really is a testament to Dale Dye's philosophy and building up and tearing down and rebuilding into a cognitive unit.
I mean, it does happen, if you get a chance to work with people that closely for that long, bonds are formed that will never be broken. I've got a lot of good friends from jobs that I did, 10, 15 years ago, that we just spent enough time in each other's company to really kind of appreciate the work that we were doing and get to know them as people as well, So it's that kind of job, you make friends really quickly, but keeping them is a different thing, having them in your life for a long time is something much harder because you're constantly meeting people,
When you were first told that you were going to be playing First Lieutenant Frederick Heyliger, did you have an opportunity to talk with him, or was this going to be a role that you wanted to get his background into it, or was the due diligence that they handed you, the packet that they gave you with your character in it and the pictures and everything, was that enough, or did you actually get a chance to talk to him?
I didn't get a chance to talk to him, and I had a finite amount of stuff to do as him. So I kind of dealt with what was there on the page and just getting that right for the program makers, I can understand if you're going to be playing someone for a very long time and you've got a lot of different stuff to go through as that character, that it's very important to kind of get into their head and meet them. But no, I didn't feel that it was necessary. For me, I would have loved to have chatted with him. I would have, but no. It was I was working on other things leading up to it, and it was in a quite a busy period for me. So, as I said, I was just kind of dipping in whilst doing other jobs. I was kind of back and forward to the Band of Brothers camp. I was in for maybe a couple of weeks, and then I was away for 3 or 4 weeks doing another job, and then I would come back in and do another week or two, and then they would call me back in and say, we've added a couple of scenes which never made it in, but they, gratefully they paid me to come back and shoot for another week, and but no, I didn't get a chance to talk to him, and I would love to have.
Now, you just did a very good job of an American accent imitating Farnsworth. Did you have? Obviously, you picked up a lot of it, or at least some of it, when you were over here visiting. Do you still have a call for doing American accents?
Oh yeah, I mean, a lot of American productions are made here in London, and from time to time you'll have to kind of dust it off and try and do a decent job of it again. But it takes a lot of work. It's a lot of hard graft to do it justice, And if I do an accent, I would like it to be the accent it's supposed to be. I know that Moose Heyliger was from Boston, I believe.
Yeah.
And I was told by the voice coach just not to even attempt it. I wouldn't have the time because it was all very quick turnover for me, and I only met with the voice coach from America once, and she was like, no, just kind of go for the general American. It's going to be too stressful for you trying to catch that, because it's a very specific American accent, the whole Boston thing. Yeah. I would have loved to have had the time to work on it, but I kind of knew the limitations of what time that I did have. And
I couldn't agree with you more. That Boston accent is one of the worst hodgepodge things that you could ever.
It's beautiful when people get it right. It's a lovely accent to listen to.
Right. But anybody else who tries to do it just sounds like they're talking with a mouthful of marbles.
Yeah.
Since you didn't have to do the boot camp stuff, you probably didn't have to go through a lot of the physicalness of getting in shape. Did you find yourself in shape enough for the 3 weeks that you were there?
No.
So you still came up short-winded.
Absolutely not. It was one of the most horrific experiences of my life, trying to keep up with these guys, and they were all incredibly fit. And, we had, in the episode that I did, Crossroads, we had to do the rescue on the Rhine of the British soldiers. So, you turn up one day, it was such an amazing production. You turn up one day and there'd be this enormous hole in the ground, and you turn up a couple of days later and it was a lake. And then we were in this lake at night, and there's all these boats, and there's maybe about 12, 14 burly soldiers in the boat with this rope going from one end to the other, and it's quite a distance. And, Tom Hanks like, right, so yeah, Moose, you'll be pulling the rope. And I'm like, sorry, what? You're going to pull the boat. This is how you do the silent running across the water. You just pull it. So there's no paddles in the water. It's just the rope has been set, and you just pull yourself across. And I was in tears nearly halfway across. I was like, I cannot pull this anymore. My arms were burning. I was ill-prepared for that kind of physical activity. I feel ashamed that I can't remember the actor's name at the moment. I think he played Bull.
Oh, yeah, Michael Cudlitz. He's a big man.
Right, okay. So I will love him till the day I die, because he saw how badly I was struggling, and he's a big fella, and I've seen him in loads of stuff, and I was a big fan of his work, and I was just like, and he was a lovely, lovely guy to chat to. And he could see that I was struggling, and he just said, you're like the first lieutenant. I don't understand why you would be pulling it when, one of us should be pulling it. And I'm like, yeah, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. Why don't you pitch that to Tom and see what he says? And he did, God bless him, he kind of shouted on Tom, and he's like, yeah, this kind of doesn't make sense to me, and I think I should be pulling this, and the first lieutenant can, be at the front of the boat kind of checking stuff out. And Tom was like, great idea, yeah, go for it. And I was like, oh man, if we weren't all dressed in army fatigues, I think I might have kissed the big man right there and then. So yeah, that was a beautiful thing that he did for me, because I was struggling physically with that task.
What I thought was the most amazing thing about that episode in itself were the size of those boats. It looked like it was like a one-man bathtub that they kept sticking 6 guys in.
It was amazing the amount of people that they got into those boats, and I hope I'm not the only person that was kind of worried that we were going to go over at some point. You know, I kind of thought this is going to go really wrong, and it was nighttime, and
and somewhat chilly, wasn't it? Cold.
It was cold, yes. And then you got off at the other end, and it's just like, you know, rocks and pebbles and stones, and you have to run off like a hardened soldier and, you know, go straight down on your knees, and you're kind of like, oh, you're trying not to kind of let the pain show on your face. But I had a great time doing it. You know, I have such fond memories, even of all those things. I wish I had done the boot camp. I know that the people who did do the boot camp will say you don't know what you're talking about. You were lucky, but I think there's something really, really great about having that time to prepare, even if you're only going to be in one episode of something like that. I think it's amazing to have the time to prepare and be ready. And I was, taken by surprise by it. It was such a physical journey. Just for me in that one episode, these guys did it, you know, through the whole thing. And, you know,
I think it was Dexter Fletcher, who told us that he had a very, very hard time in boot camp because he couldn't give up smoking.
Yeah.
And he would smoke and run and smoke and cough and run and puke and smoke. And he's like, I was in the worst shape of my life. I don't know how I got through it.
Yeah. Actually, Dexter Fletcher was the first person I met when I started, the very first day when they put me into the big tent and said, there's your gear. Get into your gear, we're going to take you down to set. And I'm like, oh, God. And the only experience I had so far was Farnsworth shouting at me and Dale Dye terrifying me. And I thought, oh, God, this is going to be a fucking nightmare, you know? And I'm sitting in the tent getting ready, and in walks Dexter Fletcher. And I was like, hi, Anne. He's like, how you doing? And he goes, hey, are you Heyliger? And I said, yeah. And he went, did you tell Farnsworth to go fuck himself? And I went, yeah. And he shook my hand. And I just thought, it really put me to ease, you know? And I was like, oh, God, that's great.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It was a beautiful moment.
Did you, granted, 3 weeks didn't give you a lot of time to build bonds there, but did you become close to anybody while you were there, and are you still friends with them?
Not really, no. I mean, when I was on set, yeah, there was some really nice folk there, and like all film sets, you know, you kind of have a laugh, and I really love being on set. You know, I think it's the most exciting, vibrant workplace I've ever experienced, and that's kind of why I still do this job, you know. 20 years in, I just love being there. I love being with the crew. I love, you know, meeting interesting actors, you know, who you know, just have something special, and it's lovely to just get to know these people. But no, I said they continued on with the gig, and I just went on to do other things afterwards. You know, it was in the scale of the job, I was on it for a very, very short time. But yeah, I had a great time, and I met lots of really interesting folk, you know. But no, I didn't really keep that close contact with anyone after that.
Have you had the opportunity to watch the entire series? Did you watch it when it was on HBO?
Yes, I didn't just watch it up until my episode and then stop, honest.
Well, good. I know some of the actors we talked to, they said they'd never seen it.
Well, I think that's a lot of I've known a lot of actors who would say that and don't watch the stuff that they're in. I love watching the stuff that I'm in, but I feel very privileged to be involved in any production, you know. So I think just give it the kind of due respect that it deserves and give it a watch. Sometimes it can be very difficult.
Did you have a favorite episode?
Yeah, episode 5 was great. That's the one I'm in, by the way.
Well, yeah. I knew that one was great. I was hoping for the other.
I actually loved the first episode with David Schwimmer.
Yeah.
Because you know, I had heard that he was going to be in it, and I was such a big fan of Friends, and I was like, now how is this going to play out? You know, you've just got that image of him as Ross in your head, and you know, can he shake that? And you know, will I just look at him as the guy from Friends? So I thought he did a fantastic job in it, and I thought that was a really interesting opener.
I think when I was watching those first episodes with David Schwimmer in it, I was always on the edge of my seat waiting for his voice to crack like it used to do on Friends when he got upset.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, though. You were waiting for him to slip a little bit, and there's that when he would yell at the troops when they were training. I'm like, oh, come on, don't do it. Keep control of your voice, man. And then it was all just putting pressure on myself for no reason, because I thought it was a perfectly played part, not only by him, but also by Spielberg and Hanks for putting him in that role.
Yes, absolutely. And I was the opposite. I was watching it hoping that he would.
Well, that's Schadenfreude, man. That's the
yeah, no, that's kind of where I come. That's where I live. I live in Schadenfreude land.
Well, and I do as well. But it was really such a great series. I was like, oh, please don't screw this up for me. Because then also I'd be able to talk about would be like, you see that part where Schwimmer screwed up?
yeah.
Now,
but that's a testament to how good it was. You know, that I think the opening episodes set the tone for the whole thing, and it just got better and better and better as it went on. I think every performance in it just blows me away. You know, I thought that you know, Damian Lewis was just a lovely guy.
Oh yeah,
to chat to and to watch him work and have that opportunity to do some scenes with him. And you look at how well he's done now and how his career's, you know, gone. I look back on that and I think it was such a privilege to have that opportunity to work with him. And you know who I really loved working with as well was Ron Livingston. He just is an amazing actor and such a fantastic some fantastic guy to have on set. You know, so funny and dry-witted, and so you know, just getting the opportunity to work with these guys and hang out with them for a little while was great. You know.
Now, did you get to go out drinking after hours with these guys or go to the pub with them at all?
No, because not really. I'm from Glasgow. I was being put up in a hotel in London whilst doing the job. So, and it was really long hours and generally would finish really late after the pubs had closed, you know. So, and a lot of these guys lived in London and, so just kind of heading back and, you know, getting a good night's sleep. Too tired to drink, and coming from a Scotsman, that just will tell you how tired.
Yeah, you were pretty beat. Because
we
you guys
were.
wake up and drink scotch for breakfast, right?
Oh, no, lunch. Come on, we're not alcoholics.
Now, one of the things that I found the most surprising during all of our interview processes is how the perception of World War II was changed because for the actors because of Band of Brothers. Did you have a working knowledge, historical knowledge of World War II, or were you walking into this as an actor who just as another part?
I kind of a bit of both, you know. I didn't really. I had the basic knowledge of World War II. You know, my granddad was in the army, and I didn't really know him, but he died while I was very, very young, and I have seen photographs of him, you know, next to the pyramids, you know, this little Glaswegian guy, and that was my knowledge of being in the army and war, that it was just, these were normal guys, you know, that it gave me, I had that, you know, but I've never really been into the kind of the whole history of war. I'm a very much a lover, not a fighter. And, you know, I was more interested in the history of Jimi Hendrix and, you know, Glastonbury and, you know, peace and love and stuff as I was growing up, and kind of that's kind of stuck with me, that kind of thing. But I just recently did the tour of Blackwatch in America, and that gave me, because I was on it for so long, and I was very much a part of that, and we had to do, and I did a lot of research. We were given a lot of research going into that, that gave me a huge appreciation for what it means for these guys to join up and fight for what they believe in. And it's not about politics, and it's not about what the man on the street thinks that soldiers, the reason they do the job. I think you have a real good appreciation for the human and the uniform. But when it comes to Band of Brothers, I was kind of just an actor doing a role, a very exciting role. You're getting to do a war piece. It was incredibly exciting. I think if I was on it longer, if I was on it for the duration, I can completely understand how that would start to get under your skin, and you would start to think about it a lot deeper. But for me, it was very much a case of get in there, do the job, try not to look like too much of an arse, and
that's my daily mantra: do the job and try not to look like a dick. That's basically all. I wake up every day living that.
Well, you're not the only one.
The one thing that I want to ask you is, how do you sum up the men that you portrayed, the real men of Easy Company?
Better men than me. I think that's meant to be looked up to. I think that there's a danger of hero worshipping anyone. I think that they are human beings, normal people who went through extraordinary circumstances and came through it. It made them. I think they would have come out of that different men till they went into than went into it. We can all have these little experiences in our life where you go, well, that changed me. But and that can be true to a certain extent. But imagine going through that, having to live that, and then I think you'll understand what change is. I think that these men that are still around, that they're still able to live their life after the things that they've seen, the perspective that it must have given them. Better men than me, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent answer, and I don't know if we will ever see anything like that ever again with technology being the way it is and the way that we fight wars now over ridiculous bullshit as opposed to tyranny. But the fact that they were asked, they answered, and they came home, and that was the end of it, and it all took place over the course of 4 years.
Yeah.
Well, a little bit longer for you guys over in the EU.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
And it was a constant wave, wasn't it? I mean, there was none of this kind of sitting around, and you get the sense of that when you watch the show as well. I mean, there's not a hell of a lot of downtime, in that war.
Right.
It's just constantly moving, constantly going through the shit.
I got a surprise person calling in for you right now.
Oh, really?
Caller, are you there, sir? Hello? Well, I thought he was there. Maybe he's not
there. Ross?
No, it wasn't Ross.
A surprise caller. I'm getting nervous now.
Well, I don't know why. Maybe he...
It better not be Sergeant Farnsworth to shout at me again. It's fucking Farnsworth, isn't it?
No, it's not Farnsworth. I don't know. Well, come on, call back in. I don't know what happened to him. He's not answering. Are you there now, caller?
Oh,
maybe not. Oh, here he is. I'm going to add him to the group call now.
Okay.
Are you there, caller? Hello? All right. Hopefully he will call back soon, or it'll fix his connection.
Is just mountain here. It's so much tension.
I'll tell you right now, it is one of your fellow Band of Brothers cast members.
I know who it is, by the way, because his name keeps popping up on my screen.
Yeah.
There. Michael, hello. I love you. He's just hung up.
Yeah, and I don't know what it is with it's just Skype's being a butthole. I don't know what it is, man. Yeah, but it's Michael Kudlitz. He's trying to call in. He's trying to probably say you're welcome for dragging you across the river instead of the other way around.
Or I'm a liar, and they'll say it was my suggestion and not his. Just now I'm starting to think, wait, did I suggest that? I just turned it around in my mind so that I didn't feel like a dick.
Yeah, well, I still think that was the right call. I mean, first lieutenants usually don't do anything besides point fingers and say, you go there.
Yeah, those British actors would still be on the other side of that pond if he hadn't have taken over.
No, I think that would have been hysterical. It's like, I can't get over to you. I'm Scottish.
Oh, fuck it. I'm going back.
I have tea and scones waiting. Well, Michael, I'm sorry that we can't get you piped in here. Thanks for joining and listening and almost being a surprise caller. Well, I know that my paid half an hour is up, and we'll definitely stay in touch. I can't tell you how amazing it was to not only find and watch your entire catalog, but if you do such a fantastic job being you that I can't wait for the next one.
Thank you so much. It's been a